Hello, everyone, and welcome to It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day, based on my award-winning international best-selling book. I am Allie Dalsimer, joined by my co-host, Cyrus Webb.
Great to see you, Allie, and hello, everyone. Want to welcome those tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. And welcome in our friends over on IG as well, and connect with our friends over on Amazon so we can get into today's program, which I think you guys are going to really enjoy this one. It's a great message for you to be able to think about. And we're live on Amazon Live now with It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day with Allie and myself. So glad you all could be with us. Make sure you guys do hit that follow button. You see it here in this corner or down below. You also will see Allie's book in its different forms. You guys can be able to get it here on Amazon. Allie, how you doing?
I'm doing great today, Cyrus. How are you doing?
Doing amazing. Thank you so much for asking. Good to be able to be back live with you for
Yeah.
this week. And before we get into our show, Allie and I were just talking. Congratulations are in order for Allie. Allie, talk to us about the latest recognition for the book.
Oh, thank you. Yes. So the book was awarded an Indie Brag Medallion, which is an award that's given to independently published books, those that don't have the big, backing at the publishing houses. And it's a pretty cool award. It's one that's normally given to fiction books. They do take a few select nonfiction, so I'm pretty excited and gratified by it.
Yeah, well deserved. It's
Thank
great
you.
messages in your book that we've been able to share here in our series that we're having here, Allie. And today's message is, I mean, I think a great reminder of that. When I was preparing for today's show, one of the things that I thought about was how our perception, you and I were just talking about this actually,
Hmm.
how people sometimes perceive us is not necessarily how we see ourselves. I can remember when I was not in a good place about myself and people were talking to me about how smart I was and how well I was going to do in life. And I didn't believe any of that.
Yeah.
and it was just, I thought they were just being nice. And so it really goes to show how a lot of times what people perceive of us is not what we see. As we get into this message, before you read it, Allie, what was it like for you when you were thinking about that message?
Yeah, I read it this morning, and it really, really struck me how disconnected we've become from our inner selves, and how social media, it's a double-edged sword. We love social media. It connects us. I learn a great deal. I've met people,
Hmm.
get to interact with them, but at the same time, there's a lot of pressure.
Hmm.
It's a whole new type of peer pressure that comes with having to um, present a face that may or may not be what's really going on, and also being deceived by others who are putting on their faces, their social media masks, so to speak.
Right. I think that's such a powerful thing, and I think it's a really great reminder for all of us. So, Allie, why don't you take us into today's message?
Absolutely. All right. I confess that I have been as blind as a mole, but it is better to learn wisdom late than never to learn it at all. Sherlock Holmes. Friends have remarked that I am a strong person. Maybe that's true, maybe not. I was raised to be self-sufficient, not to ask for help or show weakness. I worked hard to appear strong and happy and not display depression or numbing paralysis, at least not publicly. But is that really strength? Allowing oneself to grieve, to wallow, to explore the darker side of the emotional spectrum provides a yin to life's yang. It's okay to feel sad, to need alone time, to cry, and to ask for help when you need it. All of us must deal with hardship and strife of one flavor or another. While unique, hardships share one commonality. They often are out of our control. We can't control, for example, if a loved one dies of cancer, or if a storm destroys our home, or if we lose our job due to cutbacks. All we truly control is what we do, how we react, who we spend time with, and how we choose to go forward. Emerson wrote that life is a journey, not a destination, and we've all been admonished to stop and smell the roses. The more our technology advances, the faster paced our lives become, and the less we listen to the wisdom of those who preceded us. Philosophers like Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato spent hours each day exploring the majestic landscapes of their inner thoughts. Today, we have more knowledge, yet understand a great deal less than they did. Taking time to slow our bodies and quiet our minds liberates and empowers us to better understand who we are and who we are meant to be. Once we unlock these hidden treasures, we are free to identify our life goals. Once we know the end point, we can create a mental blueprint identifying the incremental steps to help get us there. As we progress, we bolster the strength and courage we need by seeking out people who are helpful and kind, rebuffing and avoiding those who are not, and congratulating ourselves for our accomplishments, no matter how small. Our paths won't be linear. We'll take a few steps forward, a few to the side, maybe a couple small ones back. Overall, forward progress is the goal. Moving even a little is better than allowing a long slide backwards.
Ellie, first thing I wanted to ask you about, could you have even written this chapter 5 years ago?
No, absolutely not.
Tell
There's
us why,
no
if you don't mind.
Because I was exactly in that spot. I was in the spot of putting on a facade and believing so little in myself and my own self-worth, suffering with imposter syndrome. I was, at the time, 5 years ago, I was managing a rather large program, overseeing a lot of resources, and I felt like a fraud, because I had been sort of told all my life that whatever, it wasn't really all that. I wasn't really all that.
Yeah.
And it was playing a game, and I absolutely was not focused on my inner landscape, like listening to myself. I never had quiet time. There was always music on, TV on, audiobook, whatever, or I was reading, I was working, I was doing something. I never just sat and was quiet. And I remember thinking that, so my grandmother, when she was older, she used to sit in her living room, and they had this bay window, and she would look out at the yard, and there were bird feeders and flowers and plants, and there was a lot of wildlife in that little patch of garden. And she would just sit and look out the window for hours. And I was like, oh, how can you do that? Like, I can't sit for 5 minutes in quiet. And, it's been a long time coming, but having quiet time, some people call it meditation. Some people have to sit still. Some people like to, rock on a rocking chair or go for a walk or whatever it is. But having time to be at peace and to reflect inwardly and not allow ourselves to be bombarded all the time is just so gratifying. I'm just in such a better place than I was 5 years ago, even though outwardly it may or may not seem like that to others.
Right. I think it's Bo, or it may be Bob. Excuse me if I may have that wrong, but they said on Amazon, this is deep, and it really is. But I thought to ask you the question because I think, and Robert, hey Robert Marshall, good to be able to see you joining us from Chicago over on IG. I thought to ask you that question, Allie, because I think it's important for people to know that it's a progression. You and I were just talking before we went on here, and I said, as I mentioned, growing up, I didn't have a very high, thought about myself and my own abilities, and I thought everyone was lying to me about being talented and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the quote from Sherlock Holmes, which I had never heard before in your book. What made this resonate with you so much when you think about the importance of some movement in your life?
Well, I actually think it applies to all aspects of my life, because I'm not a final product yet. So even though I'm, no longer in my 20s, it's not too late. It's if I'm not seeing something yet, if I'm still not seeing something yet, and I don't mean the podcast.
I don't know why you would say that, Ellie.
But who knows? Maybe I'll come to it. Because we are as blind as moles, because moles live in the dark. They live in a hole in the dark, and they don't see, the light hasn't reached them yet. but it's better to come to knowledge, especially self-knowledge, late than it is never to have realized it at all. Like never to have even glimpsed your own personal potential, never even to have tried taking that first step towards becoming the you that you were meant to be. I talk about embracing your inner fabulosity so you can maximize your potential. And that's, it's not just a bunch of fun words. It's real, because we have that shine that light inward so that we can see our true selves, so that we can embrace and really move into what it is we can achieve and what is meant for us.
Right. Amy Lassen says, why no podcast? That's a great question, Amy.
So Cyrus has been trying to get me to do a podcast, and I have been a little bit resistant. But yeah.
And it is Bobo Go. Thank you so much for correcting me on that. And I'm going to say thank you to you guys coming in over on the Amazon side. Appreciate all of the love and appreciate the hearts too. Allie can't see them on her because she's on the StreamYard side. But Bobo Go asked a very good question, Allie. Mm-hmm. Did Allie come to greater awareness of life before, during, or post-COVID? That's a great question.
That is a great question. And it began happening. It really began happening a little bit before COVID, only because I was dealing with a lot of things. And prior to COVID, I think I realized that I wasn't where I needed to be necessarily, but I didn't really know where that was.
Yeah.
During COVID, I actually ran for Congress, was a full-time caregiver to my mother who did pass, actually unexpectedly, which was really challenging. And that just sent me into a very weird place. Not only, it was a very dark place, but also at the same time, because I was running for office, I had to put on this, this mask, this facade, and be like, yes, everything's fine. And I'm going to go to this, group, and I'm going to talk to them about, all the things that I would like to bring to the district and whatever. And in my brain, I'm like, it's my mom.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. And I think I shut down. So during COVID, I shut down from an exploring internal way. I did a lot of learning and self-analysis. But it wasn't until my kids left and I found myself living alone for the first time in decades, like since after college. My husband was gone, my mother was gone, my kids were gone, and I was alone. And that was the moment that I really started with the introspection. And I gosh, that's a great question, because I hadn't even thought of this, but the fact is I was almost forced to be alone. I was forced to be in my own mind and in my own thoughts. It was sort of thrust upon me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So to answer your question, it started a little bit before COVID. During COVID, I was educating myself a great deal and exploring, but not inwardly. And then after COVID is when I really began my journey.
Love that. For those who are just tuning in, welcome. You're watching It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day, based on Allie Dalsimer's award-winning book. It just won another award. For you guys who are joining us on the Amazon platform, I'm going to highlight for you guys, you can be able to get the print edition as you see there, or you can be able to get the Kindle edition as well. You also have the audiobook that's there available too, so make sure you guys do check that out. We're going to also remind you how you can stay connected with Allie and sign up for her newsletter too. For those joining us on Instagram, I see you guys over there. Zen Zone, hello to you. The Real Lady Extreme, hello to you, joining us from Ohio. Glad you could be with us as well. I want to share something else you mentioned in this particular message, Allie, that I think is a great reminder for our audience here. You say this: once we know the end point, we can create a mental blueprint, identifying the incremental steps to help us get there.
Yeah.
I thought that word incremental there was so vital, because I think a lot of times we try to rush the process. But even building up to this chapter, Allie, you've shown us that wasn't something you could have done anyway, because you had to take it literally a day at a time. How important was that for you? And what would you say to our audience, Allie, about the importance of taking it one step at a time?
Yeah, I think it's huge, because you can't you can't reach point B if you don't know where it is. So the first thing is trying to figure out where your point B is. Like, where is it you want to go?
Mhm.
But then you also are not, Superman. You're not going to leap tall buildings in a single bound and get there. Poof. That's just not how life works, because we have spent our lives getting to where we are now. The analogy that I've used in the past is people who want to lose weight. Like, a lot of people want to lose weight. They were like, I need to lose 20 pounds. And they go on these weird crash diets, and then they, maybe they lose a bunch of weight, then they gain it all back. And, you say to them, just do X, Y, Z, eat smart, exercise, lose a pound a week. And they're like, that's going to take forever. It's like, well, how long exactly did it take you to gain that 20 pounds, that 50 pounds, that 100 pounds? You didn't gain that in a week, right? That took years to gain. So, you've been gaining weight for 5 years. Why don't you give yourself 5 years to lose it, or even half that, instead of needing immediate results? And I think that anything that's meaningful and worthwhile is worth spending time on. And if you take that factor of immediate gratification out, immediate results, if you take that immediate results requirement away and try to go for a quality result, a meaningful, lasting, purposeful end result, then you realize very quickly that if you want to, I'll just stick with a weight example. If you want to lose 20 pounds, well, realistically, you're going to need to figure out how to do that, right? So the first thing is maybe you walk 10,000 steps a day, or whatever the magic number is. You stop eating junk food, or whatever it is. The point is that you have to identify specific incremental steps. And if you want to achieve your personal life goal, for me, I want, I've been wanting to be an author and a public speaker, right? So what are the steps to get me there? Because I'm not going to be like, oh, hey, I'm an author. Well, okay, I have to write a book. Right? I actually have to publish a book. Okay, well, in order to publish a book, I have to write the book. Okay, well, in order to write the book, I actually need to sit down and write. And it's not just I'm not going to write a book in one day. So, okay, so I need to write X number of words in a day, or a chapter in a day, or however that works. And breaking something down puts it into bite-sized tasks. And I've said, I'm famous for saying, like, all your life lessons, you said it in the beginning of the book, you learn in kindergarten. And when you're learning to say long words, what do they tell you? Chunk it out. Chunk it out. Break it down into little pieces. Fabulous. Fabulous. And it's the same with everything, right? So if you chunk things down and you take it incrementally and you do one bite-sized step each day, just one step that brings you closer, you'll find that 6 months, a year from now, you turn around and you only been doing one small little tiny thing a day, but you turn around and suddenly, wow, I've taken 360 steps and it's gotten me somewhere. So that's why I say that, because if we try to do it all at once, I think we set ourselves up for failure. And we don't need to set ourselves up for failure. We need to set ourselves up for success and be our own best cheerleaders.
Right. Such a great point, and a great reminder again, everyone. It's okay not to be fabulous every day. Hello to you, OTPR. Good to be able to see you over there on IG. Glad you could join us for this week's episode. Ali Dalsimer, of course, is the author of the book, our co-host here of this series on Amazon. We're now halfway through this series, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Ali's been on this ride with me, and just imagine when she's... Never mind. Ali, so this was another great one this week. Ali, two questions. First of all, what do you want our audience to remember about this message?
That it is never too late. It is never too late to pursue an important goal. It's never too late to embrace your inner fabulosity. Like, it's never too late. The best time to start was yesterday. The next best time is right now, today. Right. Do one small thing today. And if that one small thing is identifying what your goal is, congratulate yourself. That's a huge accomplishment. That's more than a lot of people ever do.
Yeah, such a great point. Such a great reminder. Ali, let them know how to stay connected with you and how to sign up for the newsletter.
Absolutely. You can Google my name, Ali Dalsimer. I'm on all the socials, and you'll find my website. And please do sign up for my newsletter. It comes out twice a month. I won't spam you. I won't share your email. And I I provide actionable tips and resources through hyperlinks so that you really can not only find your ultimate passion, goal, whatever, but also just to deal with the life's ups and downs and daily traumas that we all face, and connect with me. I'd love to hear from everybody.
All right, Allie, great show today. Really enjoyed it and looking forward
Thank
to
you,
next
Brian.
week for sure.
Yes, me
And
too.
we thank you, our audience, for tuning in. Another great segment of It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day with Allie and myself. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.